We're talking week 15 in the NFL here on Proline TV. Thanks for joining us. Greg DePalma, Jim Feist. One more game, actually two more games to go. Tonight, Monday night, two games that really not many people are going to watch. It means something for the NFC North. Minnesota has a chance to get closer to Detroit. And
well, yeah, now Montgomery's out. And everything in there lost the game, and they got all these defensive injuries. Yeah, it closes. Even Green Bay is, in the mix.
Yeah, watching the game last night, once again, as soon as they get off to that start, Jacobs is running the ball. And because we saw in the second half, Seattle's run defense looked more like it had the previous 4 weeks. And it was like, all right, well, they fixed something. But you just kept waiting if you're a Packer fan. Oh, man, come on, Jordan. Pick it up. Come on. And at this point, you still can't win a Super Bowl this year unless he gets better. He's just not looking like the guy, anything like the guy he was at this point last year. And as we know, this is the NFL. It's the Super Bowl. You can't get to the Super Bowl and play mediocre quarterback play. You just can't do it. It's not going to work.
We really don't know what he really is.
No, we don't.
Because we saw that flash last year, and it was incredible. But he hasn't lived up to that. Everybody that had watched that game had to be super disappointed that in how poorly Seattle looked in that game. I mean, you're talking about at that point the division leader in the West, and they looked like trash.
They got off to a really bad start.
And then Geno, he got hurt, and now there's question marks whether he comes back this week. And
well, I think really what happened was, and we had talked about this last week, even when I had Corbin on from Locked On Seahawks, and the offensive line was starting to come around. But we have to keep in mind that a couple things. First of all, number one of those guys was a rookie that had only made a couple of starts and was a 6th round draft pick. And it was really more of a run blocker. Number two, during the game, early in the game, they lose their center. That's
always big.
Now they're down to their 3rd string center. So it's like, here we go again. We just got our offensive line humming for a couple of weeks. Boom. Now we've got the center down again. And so, and the Packer defense that has been underrated, because there's no way the Packers right now would be where they're at with 10 wins without the running game and the defense, because as we just talked about, Jordan Love has done nothing. So this has been all about the running game and the defense, and they sure as heck just really manhandled the Seahawks at the line of scrimmage last night.
Certainly did. Yes, they did.
Meanwhile, as we take a look at we're going to pop up the playoff picture here, because one of the things we need to talk about right away was it was a big matchup. It was one of those 4 really good matchups at 4:30, I guess you can call it. That's the one thing that I do at least give them a tiny, minuscule bit of credit, that they put all the games at close to 4:30 instead of at 4:05. So at least the games that ran over at 4 o'clock, you didn't have a 4:05 game start. You're missing that, and that's always aggravating. So at least there was that.
It was annoying that they had a lot of the good games.
Yes, it was terrible.
But I don't think that when that when you make the schedule up.
No, but you can change. They just changed, which I can't even believe. They just changed a few weeks ago, Thursday. They went from Thursday to Sunday with a game. So we know they can go from 4 o'clock to 1 o'clock if they're doing Thursday to Sunday to Thursday. So anyway,
big move. Yeah.
Yeah. Great decision to have Denver and the LA Chargers on Thursday and get rid of that Bengals Browns game, which no one's going to watch. Matter of fact, I think the Browns are playing the Dolphins in a primetime game upcoming as well. I think I just finished interviewing Fred Greetham, who covers the Browns for the Orange and Brown Report at 247 Sports. You're going to really enjoy the interview. Being a Browns guy, back from Ohio, you and Mark. I went in depth with Fred. I asked him everything about Deshaun Watson, everything about ownership, who's to blame, who's running the show, what's going on there with Watson.
Can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, so we're going to post that. Of course, it's going to be posted originally on the RLads channel, but then I'm going to take edited versions and we're going to post it here at Proline TV. So look out for that. But the thing I wanted to talk about was one of those games right here, this team here. Our Buccaneers, baby, just keep on rolling. And not that they won the game.
They destroyed them.
I mean, wow. Nobody has been doing that to the Chargers defense this year. I mean, Ravens, I think, were the closest, but they just hammered them. It's just, wow. I mean, the running game, Baker, and they did it even on defense without their best defensive player missing in the secondary. That was that was their best performance of the season.
Well, the Buccaneers have been, and Baker have been amazing all season. I mean, they've, Baker especially, and he's been incredible. If that was a better team, if you're talking about somebody that's a contender, they'd be talking about him as most valuable player. But I think Josh Allen probably won that yesterday if he stays healthy.
Yeah, he was amazing as well. Look at this though. Now, see the Bucs. Now, look, obviously, if Atlanta loses tonight, which I think they're going to, but if they lose tonight, it's over. Even though they own the tiebreaker, it's over. They've got the edge. Tampa's just flying high, and that would be 5 in a row losses. So no way they're catching the Bucs then, because the Bucs schedule is pretty easy now. They should be fine. Meanwhile, on the AFC though, all of a sudden the Chargers now with a huge game on Thursday because they're playing the Broncos, who have taken the lead on the Chargers for that 7th spot in the AFC wildcard picture. Meaning, and remember, if the Colts lost, they were out, and they're out. So now it's only, even though the Colts are still up there, but the Dolphins lost too. And lo and behold, who tied? The Dolphins.
They're still there.
And the Colts at
Bengals
6-8.
there.
Yep. So the Bengals, but unfortunately for the Bengals, Denver won. So they're pretty much done. I don't see how they're going to catch the Chargers. I can't see the Chargers losing 6 out of 8.
The Chargers they're having problems. First of all, Herbert is not healthy.
Nope.
Their defense is vulnerable now. This is not. We have to remember, Harbaugh went in there. He didn't win it. He didn't go in there this year to win it, because their roster was not as good as it had been the previous year.
Yep.
They were down a couple players, and it's starting to show up. And the problem is when I'm mixing around, you're going apples and oranges. But the Colts against the Broncos, boy, the Colts made a million mistakes in that game. The Broncos really didn't win that game as much as the Colts gave it away.
Yeah, absolutely.
They made a lot of mistakes. I mean,
Taylor, how can you just be so stupid?
Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
I mean, how can you be so dumb?
This happens. I don't know what they get all juiced up, and we've seen this for years where players do this nonsense.
Well, I mean, it happened to the rookie on the Jets earlier this year, Quarterly. And that had been the first one that we had recalled in a while. But for it to happen, because the big one, of course, was Leon Lett? No, not Leon Lett. Who was it with the Dallas Cowboys who did it was it Thanksgiving, I believe? I mean, I remember the Cowboys did like 3. I know Deshaun Jackson did it. That was who did it, right? Deshaun Jackson?
That's right.
He did it. But I remember the Cowboys, they did 2 stupid things, the Leon Lett thing in the Super Bowl, and then they did something stupid. I can't remember what it was. And there was also a Thanksgiving Day game like the one this year. I mean, a Cincinnati game. But the one several years back, I forget what it was. But anyway, you would think that because the kid did it just a couple of months ago or a month or so ago, that would be fresh on everybody's mind because it was on national TV. It was a Thursday night game. I can't do that.
They don't pay attention. They just keep doing the same stuff, and it's just the adrenaline's high, the testosterone's running, and
That would have been
They
a big lead.
caught up. Oh my God! It was the 20. They had 21 instead. I mean, they take the touchdown off the board. I mean, my God.
Yep, that was terrible. And then, of course, look, here's the thing, and I'm a Colts fan. I'm really going to be upset. And that is, well, look, I guess that all depends if you're going to be upset, if you're a Richardson guy or not. Because if you buy into the Richardson deal, then this is what you have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with this for the next year or two as he learns to become a quarterback. He may never get it.
He needs to go to quarterback school and learn how to play. I mean, just.
Did you see the graphic they showed in the game? I don't know if you watched it. The graphic, the Bo Nix Richardson graphic, how Bo Nix came into the league with 61 career starts, and Richardson had like 13.
Oh yeah, he simply doesn't have enough experience. But you got a brain. I mean, you got to go to. He's got to go to off season. He's got to go to school, learn how to throw some passes that.
Simple
he can throw the 100-yard pass, but let's give me a 10 or a 20 once in a while. Right?
And that was the thing, is that if they had a competent, and I'm not even talking about a really good quarterback, they just had like an average quarterback play the game for the Colts yesterday, they win the game, I think. Just an average quarterback, they win the game.
Well, that's why they kept going back and forth to Flacco, a couple times, and thought that maybe he could play a little bit like he did for the Browns the previous year, but it didn't work out this year.
So Chargers have the big one against the Broncos, because if you look at it, if you're the Bengals fan, because again, the Bengals look like, even though all three teams are in it, the Bengals are the only team that has a shot because of their offense, even though their defense sucks, but still. Miami, again, we talked about this last week. I kind of felt they were done, and the Colts stink. So
I'm pretty shocked at this Miami offense. I mean, putting up 12 points. I know man, what happened to this offense? Why is it so?
The league caught two things. The league caught up to the whole idea early on last year, which was we're gonna now cover you deep. You are not giving you the free Tyreek Hill 50, 60-yard touchdown passes. We're not doing it. So if you're going to beat us, you're beating us short deliberately. That's why the Dolphins.
That's a too high defense that they run out there. Yeah.
And then secondly, the offensive line is just a complete mess right now. They weren't very good when the season started, and they've got major injuries now. They came into the game. Remember, we talked about this on our Saturday show. And if you've missed it, you check with us every Saturday. We have a show basically where we go over the final injury reports. We let you know as best as we can who may play, who may not play, and we give our final take on the games. And we talked about how Teron Armstead was iffy again. And sure, matter of fact, we said he was doubtful in the game, which means pretty much he's not playing. And then the other tackle wasn't playing either. So they played without their starting tackles, without their top linemen. And the line was not even that great when the season started anyway. And then you saw what happened. So
it was pretty pathetic, actually. It really was.
So Miami's a lot in trouble. So when you take a look at the schedule, so all right, let's just say from a Denver point of view. Now they probably have put themselves in a position now where they're in great shape now, and they're very fortunate that believe it or not, that they're playing the Chiefs in the last game of the season, because chances are.
Right now, the Chiefs have a real issue because they weren't playing very well anyway, and it's very likely they're going to end up playing Carson Wentz this week.
So and maybe that's the saving grace.
High ankle sprains are not easy to come back from.
So maybe that's the saving grace regarding Denver, or if you're voting against Denver, because if the Chiefs now have to win the game for home field and the bye week, and that's important, that maybe they will want to win the game, and that'll help everybody. Now again, you might say, the Bengals are out of it. Okay, now again, I'm just saying Cincinnati, Denver, and Denver's in sixth. They're 3 games back. Okay, you might say that's insurmountable. Not so much. If Denver loses Thursday, which is very conceivable, Chargers home game, desperate. Let's say that happens. Next week, the Bengals play Denver. So if they beat Denver and they win this week, they go 2 games up from 3. Now they go into the final regular season game, 1 back for all the marbles, and they own the tiebreaker. So this is not over yet if Denver loses Thursday. Now, for the Chargers, if they want to catch the Chargers remaining games, of course, you got Denver. So let's say Denver wins. Well, now Cincinnati's got to look at the Chargers. Now, they don't play them, but okay, we're only 2 games back. What can we beat the Chargers now? Because if we win this week, we'll be a game behind the Chargers. All right. Well, the Chargers' last 2 games, unfortunately, if you're a Cincinnati fan, are New England and Las Vegas. So I don't think, unless Herbert, anything could happen, unless something happens to Herbert long term, I just don't see how the Chargers would lose to those teams in a kind of important kind of deal. So,
well, you got to remember he was hurt this week. He had 2 injuries that could have affected him in that game. Of course, the Buccaneers have been playing very well. They put a 40 burger on them. That doesn't bode well for their defense because their defense was highly ranked. And now, of course, you can't be very impressed with the way Knicks did not look good this week. I'm sorry.
And he won the game.
Yeah, because the Colts made a lot of mistakes that really helped them.
Knicks had one of his worst games of the season.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was,
which is going to happen. He's a rookie. He's going to have bad games. So,
well, for sure, yeah.
That's good for Denver that they can win a game.
He also could have another bad game this week.
Well, if that starts happening, then you're in trouble because he is a rookie. But he's a rookie. You give him the bad game and you move on. And now he's got to learn from it. I feel a lot more comfortable, of course, Nick's coming off a 3 interception game than we would with Richardson. That's for sure. But yeah, he's got to get that out of his system because he doesn't have long. Now, here's a question, because I'm sure this is a question that's going to be asked regarding Harbaugh. I know the circumstances, completely get it, but should you rest Herbert for the week? Give him 10 days because you'd have the extra time off. If not, you're pressing him into action just with 3 days rest, and he's even more banged up than he was last week. And what if you lose and you injure him even more? So I think it's a tough decision. I really do. I don't think it's a decision that should be, if he's healthy or if he feels good, he's playing.
I don't know the inner workings of any of these teams and how they communicate and decide those things, but logically, this is not a team that's going to lift the trophy. Yeah, you want to get in the playoffs, of course. These guys, the aggressiveness of coaches and football players in general is high testosterone. They don't back off. They don't give up. They never want to sit out.
And keep in mind when we just talked about the schedule. So even if you lose this game, you'd get 10 days rest for Herbert, or actually 2 weeks rest for Herbert. And then you go on the road to play the Patriots and the Raiders. And I'm sorry, but if you can't beat the Patriots and the Raiders with a healthy Herbert, then I don't know what are we talking about here anyway?
Well, you got to remember this Patriot team doesn't quit.
But you see what I'm saying? If you can't beat the Patriots, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs anyway.
They can beat you. I mean, Drake May is capable of putting. First of all, they put up points. They don't stop. They don't slow down. The Raiders are a different case, but nothing's easy. In my history is these coaches and quarterbacks and players, they just don't want to quit. They don't want to sit.
He's going to play. I don't have any doubt he'll play.
Yeah.
That's Harbaugh too. Harbaugh wants to win, and he wants his quarterbacks to be tough. You're going to have to basically tell Harbaugh, and that's tough. But you're going to have to say that, look, I can't be effective. I just can't. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm a great soldier. I'm a tough kid. I don't want to come out. But I don't know if Herbert can do that either. I just don't.
The Broncos don't go in there, and they know that he's banged up a little bit. They got to throw a lot of pressure at him, a lot of blitzes, make him move, which is not what if he's really got that. He had a swollen knee and a bad ankle in that game yesterday. I doubt that he's any healthier today than he was.
And of course, Chargers did beat Denver earlier this year, so they have the 1 game edge. So, of course, if they beat Denver, I mean, it's not a big deal. You move basically from 7 to 6. It's not going to be a major deal. So there it is. Because you're not catching the Ravens, not the way the Ravens are. Who knows? I mean, I guess Denver could, but the Ravens are just a much better team. All the other teams were already clinched, as you can see. Kansas City, Buffalo. Now, what's important here is that the Chiefs do have a 2-game lead, which is why it is a no-brainer to sit Mahomes for at least a week. Now, you said high ankle sprain. Now, let's remember this. We remember, what was it? Not last year, I think. It was 2 years ago. Patrick's high ankle sprain injury. Now, I'm not trying to tell you he didn't have one. All I know is we heard Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain injury. It was going into the playoffs. It was big-time football, and he played on it. And they won with him still with the high ankle sprain. And he didn't look all that bad with it. It wasn't limping, So I'm not going to get into this, okay, he's got a high ankle, okay, he's going to miss it. I don't believe it. I don't believe that anything's seriously wrong until Patrick Mahomes doesn't play or is ineffective because they're so good. He's so good. And even when they say he's banged up, it just doesn't seem to matter. They're still better than everybody else. So, but yeah, give him the week off. Let Carson Wentz go in there and play 1 game. I mean, who are they playing this week? Oh, no, that was last week. Who are they playing this week?
Who the hell are they playing? I don't have the schedule in front of me.
Let me see. The Kansas City Chiefs on their docket this week. They've got the Houston Texans on a Saturday.
Yes. And let me tell you a little bit about that.
And they also have a Pittsburgh game on a Wednesday on Christmas after that. So
they got a couple games that they get a little problem here because the Chiefs opened up a 4.5-point favorite.
Oh, he's telling me the line again.
However, it's now 2.5 the other side. What's that tell you?
So they're favoring the Houston Texans just because so that's a 7-point swing.
Yes.
Which again, if you're not playing Patrick Mahomes, I'm willing to say, yeah, 7 points. Why not? As someone that would be betting the game, my initial take may not be my final take, but my initial take would be, oh, I'm grabbing those points, especially since we've said this repeatedly about Andy Reid being an underdog. So
an underdog with Carson Wentz.
And again, Carson Wentz, we don't know what we're going to get out of Carson Wentz, but I will say this. We know what Andy Reid can do with quarterbacks. And I'd be willing to bet. See, Wentz is very similar to Jameis Winston. We don't know what we're going to get week for week, season to season. But I do remember Jameis Winston was at his best before his injury when he was coached by Sean Payton in New Orleans. Then he had the ACL injury, and then it's back to Winston in Cleveland, and you see what you get. But his best football was with Payton, which is why I would believe if Wentz is now going to go out there with Andy Reid coaching him, I think he'll probably play well.
Well, the game plan will be modified for sure. They'll try to cut down on the mistakes that he is known to do, which is some crazy decisions.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that he does left-handed passes, underhanded passes. I mean, the things that he's done in the past. I'm sure the maturity has to happen eventually. The switch has to go on. But that's a big line movement.
Yeah.
That tells you right there, that tells you right off the bat that they're expecting Mahomes to sit. Absolutely. I'm expecting Mahomes to sit.
As well he should. You got a 2-game lead. You can't screw around with that ankle. No way. That would be malpractice as a coaching staff.
Well, the biggest issue they have is trying to avoid having to go to Buffalo to play the championship game. That's their biggest issue.
And they are playing. So let's say they do lose this week and it becomes a 1-game lead. Then they're at Pittsburgh on Christmas, which is not going to be easy, especially if they get Pickens back, which as we saw on Sunday. You remember we talked about this on Saturday. It's one thing to beat the Cleveland Browns without Pickens. It's another thing to try to beat the Philadelphia Eagles without him. And that's what we saw. It's just that offense. And they came this close too to tying the football game if it wasn't for Harris, and he can't even catch a pitch. So, which just shows you, as we've said before, and everybody that has a common sense has said, that Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the league for nothing. So, yeah, that'll be a tough game. And then all of a sudden, if you lose 2 games in a row and the Bills win the next 2, like you said, the Chiefs will be the number 2 seed heading into the final week of the season.
The Browns have some. I'm not the Browns, but the Steelers have some big problems. I mean, they still have to play Baltimore on the road. Yeah,
that is. Matter of fact, I am going to be interviewing insiders for both teams this week. Tomorrow, I'll be doing the Pittsburgh side. Wednesday, I'll be doing the Baltimore side. So once again, you can get those interviews on the R-Lads channel. I'll put the segments where I ask him about this week's matchup, and we'll edit those so we get both points of views on this channel at Proline TV later in the week. And hopefully I'll be able to also edit in your point of view and Mark's point of view, because Mark, as far as we know, is coming back to Playbook Experts ATS just for 1 week, because he goes back on hiatus for a couple of weeks because you have Christmas next week, and he's got the second bowl newsletter part 2 that he's got to put out. So we might not see Mark again after this week for another week or 2, but we are getting Mark back this week as far as we know. And I'm going to get you guys like an opportunity. Maybe we'll do this on Friday, because the 3 of us also record on Fridays now. I gotta get you guys to talk about the game, and I'll edit that in with the interviews. So that should be really cool. And hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'm sure you'll find it useful. Because these guys know, again, the people I interview, they're with the teams. I mean, they follow the teams all the time. They know everything about these teams, and they let you know stuff that you don't know because you're just not a fan. You don't follow the team all the time. You don't know everything that's going on, but these guys do, and it's really good content. So you want to make sure you check it out. What did you think about Detroit and Buffalo? I guess it was kind of predictable on one end, which was that Buffalo was able to score all over Detroit with their injuries and such. Were you surprised at all that, considering how they got blitzed against the Rams on defense, that's not what we saw initially in this game? But I guess like we talked about, that's why you kind of felt the Ram game, the defense, it was all about up here. They just weren't into it. But Detroit, they were into it, and they played some really good defense.
The way the game, they say in horse racing, the pace makes the race. And the fact that Buffalo was able to get out front in this game, it kind of forced Detroit to get away from their running game, which in my opinion was a mistake.
Yep.
Because the weakness of the Buffalo Bills is stopping the run. If Detroit could just run the ball more and not be so impatient to go to the passing game, I think it could have ended up differently. However, and I have to say this, and of course we will get into it, Montgomery is now out for the season for the Lions, and that's huge. And they not only have the defensive injuries, now they lost him.
And by the way, he didn't even look. I don't know if it was him not looking 100%. I don't know if it was him not looking 100% or if it was whatever it was, but he couldn't run the ball early in the game. The Bills did a really good job of limiting Montgomery and with those inside rushes, and they just had nothing there. And then, like you said, they just all of a sudden they just abandoned it.
Right. And Josh, let's give the guy credit. Josh Allen's playing out of this world. I mean, he's on another planet right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing so well. It's very hard to control him. I mean, he's super talented, running, passing, making decisions. And then we have Crazy Dan making some crazy decisions again.
I didn't understand. That's the first time that he's made a decision that I just had I can't back that up. I'm like, look, it's one thing to
You know,
go
like I
for it
said,
on fourth down.
well,
It's
it's a
another
6.
thing.
He has a, and then the onside kicks where he
No,
has
that's
about,
the one. That's
he
the
has a
onside
6
kick decision. It made no sense.
he has a 6% chance of success
Yeah, I
according
don't
to
get it.
statistics. You don't do that.
There
Come
were
on.
10 minutes left in the game.
I know.
You need one stop at least so you can get within a score.
Okay, obviously he was saying, I know my defense can't stop you. I have to do something crazy. And he did.
No.
You know.
I mean, what are you going to but what are you going to do then? You're going to do it twice?
Well,
I mean, come on. It's not happening. So you should have at least waited to get to within a score before you went ahead and done that. But that was the only thing that that's the weirdest decision I've ever seen him make.
I defend him a lot because he's had such success, but that was over the top. That was over the top. That was insane.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and again, you can't really evaluate that game without Pickens. But I think it says a lot about both teams in my mind. On one end, Pittsburgh, that they were right there with a chance to tie the game, and they probably would have if they didn't turn the ball over. Considering they had nothing for an entire half, and that game should have been over. The other side, I think what it says to me with Philly is, interesting. I mean, that game should have been over.
Right now, Philadelphia is the best team in the NFC because they're healthy, and it takes it away from Detroit because they're unhealthy. I mean, there's this Philadelphia team. Now, they did come out throwing the ball a little bit more, and Hurts did not look bad doing it. And their running game just wears you down physically. They are physical, and it wears you down.
By the way, that's why Pittsburgh was in the game, though, in this particular game. Not that many teams can do it, but if you can stop Barkley, if you can take him out of the game like the Steelers did, you have a chance to beat the Eagles. So whoever plays the Eagles in the postseason, if you don't have a good run defense, you have no chance. But if you have a good run defense, then we've got something.
Well, if that's a Super Bowl, if it's the Bills against the Eagles, if that is the case, the Bills are going to be in trouble because they are not great at stopping the run, and Philadelphia runs the ball better than anybody. Now, J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt, he got hurt in that game for Pittsburgh, and
he gets hurt all the time.
We don't know what his status is for this week.
Yep. So he played another really great game as he always does.
He's an amazing player.
That's a player, right? That's a player that deserves about, I'd say, 3 points if he doesn't play. I would. He's that much of a difference maker.
Odds makers won't agree with you because they rarely give that kind of number to anybody. But I would agree with you that you're giving up a field goal because he's not on the floor on the field. Yeah,
I sure would. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hey, no TJ Watt. I'll give you 3 points. Leave him on the sidelines. Let's see what else. And then, of course, we also, Ravens had the week off, even though they didn't. You also had the Rams Niners game. We talked a little bit about that on Saturday's show. The Rams are now definitely, as you can see, they're sitting pretty because they've got the edge on Seattle.
They're in great shape for now, especially now with Geno hurt.
That's the big injury right there.
It's a big injury. Well, he didn't look good when he was in there. That's one. Okay.
That's Geno. He has his ups and downs.
Well, he's been in the league 10 years, 11 years, and I think he had one really good year and one so-so year, and the rest of them were kind of really marginal.
Well, it's all been with Seattle. He's had all his best years here in Seattle.
Correct.
Even this year, if you look at it, his numbers are really up there as far as quarterback numbers. So he'll be a big loss, especially you saw the difference.
He was pretending he was Jameis Winston yesterday when some of those passes he was.
Yeah, throwing. I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
That and they talked about it, that he's that's the thing, that's what keeps him down from being an above average quarterback, is that you can't have 6 interceptions in the red zone in the past couple of years, or whatever it is that he's leading the league. Those are no-nos. You should have 1 or 2 of those in 3 years, not 6 in 2 years. I mean, those are deflating plays. You just can't do that, especially how it's done. It's like, what is he doing? Those are the things that kills you, but they've got nothing behind him. I thought the kid Howell had something. I mean, boy, did he look lost coming in.
They're in deep trouble. Quarterback wise, they're in deep trouble. Yeah.
So the Rams, all of a sudden, if there's no Geno, the Rams are in the driver's seat. But again,
even if there is a Geno, I mean, you got Matt Stafford and a good coach, a bevy of good receivers, running game, Williams. The Rams to me look like right now the Rams are going to win the West.
Well, I see. You said it perfectly. Right now, that's the thing that you love about this league, is every 2 or 3 weeks, everything changes. But we only have now 3 weeks left, so we're at that point. But still, it's enough time that even Arizona can, in 2 weeks, be going, oh yeah, Arizona, of course, we knew it all along. So it's a great thing, but it also shows you all the mediocrity that's going on in the NFL, where teams get hot and then you're like, oh, watch them now. They're the team. Because didn't we all feel that way about Arizona? They had these really big wins this season. They were in first place and they're going to be the team and they're going to win the West. And then all of a sudden they lose 3 straight. And, they're lucky that they played New England yesterday.
That's right.
But
they did have a good game yesterday. Yeah.
The Rams will get a win this week because they're at the Jets. So now the question is going to be this regarding the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, because we talked about this last week. Was it about the Miami defense, or was it Aaron Rodgers and it was just a week? Whatever. What was it? Well, now it's been 2 weeks. So he could make things interesting for the next guy that comes in about what to do. Again, what I would do is let him play next year. You draft a quarterback. You sit him because none of these quarterbacks coming out in the draft should be playing next year anyway. Just sit the rookie quarterback, let him learn from Aaron Rodgers. You start the rookie in 2026. That's what I would
say, though, that Aaron Rodgers, the last couple of weeks, looks a lot better than he has all year. He's done much better the last 2 games, especially the last half of the previous week and this game. And he definitely looks more ready to play. With him, it's not about talent. We all know how talented he is. It's about probably his attitude.
And you see him running around too. He's actually running around.
Oh my God!
Making plays with his feet.
And the celebrations, even he was into it. I think it's attitude. Somehow he's got a spark.
One thing that's working is now it took time. I think people nowadays, because of the society we're in, everything we want it now. It's like that fantasy society, especially in football. You make a trade, the guy goes in, you want him to play now. Well, it doesn't happen that way. It took Aaron Rodgers and Adams a little while to get used to playing with each other again. And now they're looking like the 2 guys have got this great chemistry. It's everything that the team was hoping for, that they were getting right away, that they just didn't get. So, yeah, Devontae Adams looked awesome yesterday. And
he certainly has the talent to look awesome, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You're either going to say goodbye to Aaron. If you do that, you're probably going to figure out a way to get rid of Adams and his big contract, or you're going to find a way to restructure Adams' contract and keep Aaron Rodgers for another year. Probably what you're going to do.
The Jets, we're talking about basically Jets for next year, and that's a tear down build up. They need coaching. They need everything.
No, they don't. No, they don't. They need a coaching staff and a front office that knows what they're doing.
You're also going to bet on a 41-year-old quarterback if he stays, and that's not a good thing.
That's what I said. They need to draft a rookie quarterback for the future. No question about it. Yeah.
Well, there aren't very many rookie quarterbacks coming out of the draft this year.
No, I mean, no question that the quarterback Rodgers, like I said, he should play next year with the rookie sitting. But next year, again, you saw how many losses they've had this year by one score. That's coaching. They don't have the coaching to get them over the top. All of a sudden, you go from losing 6-7 games by 6% or less points in one season. You can switch that over to the positive side if you've got the right coaching. And that's what I think. Well, that's what you have to hope they do. So the Rams are the Jets, but then they end the season at home against Arizona and Seattle. So how about that? So if Geno comes back, then you've got a nice little situation coming up where the Rams, if they win this week like they should, then they'll host the two teams chasing them in the NFC West. That's the way it should be.
That will be some good television.
Yep. So looking forward to that. Packers, meanwhile, they, like we said, they just have to get Jordan Love going. If they don't, they'll only go as far as. I
don't know if Jordan Love is what we're seeing now or what we saw last year at the end of the year when that amazing run that he had. I'm not sure. We don't have enough history on this guy. He's very likely somewhere in between.
You better hope he's not, because they gave him a lot of money to be the guy he was last year.
There's a lot of quarterbacks that have been paid too much money. Look at Dak Prescott. I mean, look at Denver's paying Russell Wilson more money than Pittsburgh's paying him.
New Orleans, the Packers will take on the Saints on Monday night. And then then they have a big one at Minnesota. That's a big one. And then they host Chicago. So there are two home games. Those are wins, New Orleans and Chicago. That gives them 12 wins. And then the Minnesota game. And then, of course, we know Minnesota also has Detroit on the schedule. So the Vikings have got the game tonight. And then they're at Seattle. And I'm sure they're hoping Geno's not back. And then they host Green Bay, and then they're at Detroit. So those are two really good games. Just like the West and the North, you got everybody playing each other in the final 2 weeks. So that's great. We're looking forward to that. And they'll put it about the same time, of course, on Sunday, so we can't watch them all while we're trying to watch them all. Washington, they get the win. They held on. The 2-point conversion attempt failed. And just like that, Washington holds on. And wow, what a big difference that could have been if they would have lost that game on a 2-pointer. So Seattle now is still Seattle's in good shape, because if Atlanta loses, they're basically 2 games up on Arizona for that 8th spot. And the only team that they have to worry about is Washington. So then
Atlanta doesn't have a very tough game based on the talent on the roster, but their quarterback has been a mess, and I don't see them doing anything about it. They haven't tried to switch to the other guy, the young kid, but maybe he hasn't looked very good in practice. That's possible too. But Cousins has not had a good year. This, especially the last 4 or 5 games, has been terrible.
Washington, of course, has got the big one against Philadelphia this week, and so if you're looking to catch Washington, you have to have the Eagles win this game, and if that happens, keep in mind, if Atlanta does win tonight, they're still in it. They have Washington in 2 weeks, so Atlanta will be playing in Washington. Former head coach Dan Quinn at home against the Falcons. So, but that will only really matter if Atlanta wins tonight, because if they lose tonight, they're done. So, and that's the look of it. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of really big storylines that we're going to be having to keep an eye on regarding the injuries, though.
Well, yeah, you look at, is Watt coming back for the Steelers? I mean, without him, do they really have a prayer against the Ravens? Probably not. That's then the Chiefs. You got Mahomes sitting. I mean, I'm really, based on a 7-point line, the odds makers are telling you that he is not going to play this week. I mean, that's just, at least that's their belief.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that unless they were really sure. That's a big change.
I mean, the Chargers and Broncos, you got two average teams, for one reason or another, different on both sides. Neither one are playing very well right now. The Chargers are banged up on defense. The
Denver's
quarterback
playing well,
hurt.
believe it or not.
Broncos, the Knicks looked like a rookie.
Yeah, but they played like a rookie. In a row.
And so you're dealing with all that right now going on.
By the way, the injuries that besides Montgomery, you have to keep an eye on the fact this is you talk about major injuries, but the injury to McNeil, their top defensive tackle. So basically now Detroit will have lost their top edge rusher and their top defensive tackle for the season. I mean, that sucks. That really, really sucks if you're a Detroit fan. I mean, it's not like you've got this great history of winning. You've had a lot of losing. You finally have your team. They're playing football. They're breaking historical team records. And you lose your two best defensive linemen for the year. And then you lose one of your top offensive players too.
Oh yeah, losing the running back. I mean, that's the one thing they have is great offensive line, ability to run the ball, Goff playing extremely well, and their defense had been playing way up at the top of the league in every stat you could find, and everything just fell apart over the last 3 weeks. And right now it's a mess.
And it does open things up considerably. The entire landscape opens up for, like you said, maybe you got these teams here, the Bills, the Eagles. We also have to include the Vikings, the Steelers, Ravens.
And the Lions have to be on upset alert this week going to the Bears. I mean, yeah, I know the Bears make a lot of mistakes, but when you defense is the way they are right now, you got to remember the Bears almost beat a couple teams already and messed up at the end, and then they threw the real bad one 2 weeks ago against the Niners, 10 days ago, I should say. And now
what is that line, 7 or something?
7 Lions, 7.
7. Okay, yeah. Cool. So yeah, I mean, look, that'll be a barometer test right there, because if you can't beat the Bears, it's over. I'm sorry, but because I can say right now, I'm kind of on the outs now. I can't see it happening. I just can't. And you just can't lose guys like this and win your first Super Bowl. It doesn't work that way. You don't have the history. You don't have the winning history, the tradition. It just can't happen. I'm not saying they can't win a game or two, but they're not winning the Super Bowl this year now. It's over. And that's why I think it will come from. I mean, these other teams are just too good. I mean, if Mahomes is healthy, they're just too good. We just look what they did with the Bills. They couldn't hang with the Bills.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm predicting that the Chiefs do not make the Super Bowl. They do. Yeah. They just have not played well enough all year. Yeah, they ran into the right team to beat this week in Cleveland, which I don't know if the Jameis Winston experiment is over there or not, or they're going to go to the young kid. I'm not sure what they're doing this week. I haven't heard that answer yet. But Kansas City's not going to the Super Bowl.
Let's see the odds. The Chiefs are now the 4th team. The Bills, the Eagles, and the Lions are 4-1, a little over 4-1. That Lion number's got to get bigger soon. The Chiefs are 6-1, and then you've got the Ravens at 8-1. So look, the Packers might be the Packers at 14-1, and the Steelers at 30-1 might be the best bargains right now. You also have Tampa Bay at 30, and the Rams are 45. Just some notable teams there. So,
well, the Rams better be careful this week going to the Jets. They're 3.5-point favorite on the road at the Jets, and I'm not sitting here touting or blowing the horn for the Jets, but if Rodgers can play like if he can find the fountain of youth one more week, they're dangerous.
yeah,
They're dangerous. I mean, it's never easy to cross the country and play as a road favorite at somebody that's capable at times.
yeah.
Because you never know. I like the Rams a lot, believe me. But that's a tough spot. That is not. You can't sleepwalk through that game. You have to play.
Yeah, and again, I would expect, based on the way the Jets have played this year, the game will be close. Now, do I expect the Jets to win a close game against a good team? No. But like you said, the Rams have got to make sure that, hey, we're going to have to be prepared. This is going to be a 4-quarter game. It's going to be, we're going to have to, and then just let the Jets screw up and we just keep playing our game and don't give them anything because they don't take it either. Just as long as we just play our game, we'll beat them. And that's what I would expect. But yeah, it's going to be a 4-quarter game. And as long as they don't give it away, then they're fine. It's interesting that the line is actually making sense with the Jets. That's surprising.
3.5-point home dog.
Yeah. If this was a month ago, the Jets would be a 3-point favorite. So,
well, that's only because for some reason people fell in love with them and kept betting them every week, even though they lose your money.
Crazy.
Now they're finally what they should be, an underdog.
Tampa Bay, meanwhile, they should be as far as
they're going to Dallas. The Dallas is they ran into the Panthers. It's one thing you can't. I don't know. You can fall into this, and I do occasionally.
We talked about it.
You got a team that's dogged for 34 games in a row, and they make them a favorite, and they don't. That's it. Show up. They didn't even get off the bus.
We told you
they didn't get off the bus. You're right.
We told them on Saturday's show. We went over the stats, and then you just verified it as well, talking about it. It just doesn't. It doesn't work.
There's something about a team playing with no expectations and a team playing with expectations. Panthers are favored. They're expected to win. When they go in as a dog, nobody expects them to do anything. They can pull an upset. It's easy. It's
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It shows you psychological.
It's all psychological.
And that's the whole development. That's why that's why I said it all the time with interim coaches. When you have a run at the end of a season and it doesn't matter and you win games, the people in charge are so dumb that they think that means something. And they hire them the next year to be the man, not realizing, as you just said, Jim, that there's no expectations. Now there are expectations.
There's a lack of high-level talent at coach, at offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, line coach, quarterbacks, running backs, offensive linemen. You got 32 teams, and you're trying to fill all these holes. You got a lot more need than you have the talent to fill them. That's why you have a league full of teams with 2, 3, 4 wins after 13, 14 games. Look at the teams that have the Raiders 2-11. I mean, my God, the Giants 2-12, and the Bears 4 wins.
Look at that. Look at these three teams.
This is that's a tough division, man.
remember a couple of months ago when all 4 of them were stacked up against each other, and people started talking about, well, can you get 4 teams in the playoffs? And then the Bears went on to lose 7 straight, something like that.
The Bears played a couple of games that they very easily could have won, and they didn't, of course. Here you got a Super Bowl team, the Super Bowl jinx, the Niners, 6 wins on the season. They're done. They're cooked.
Look at this. The team with the worst net point differential is in first place.
As leading the division.
Oh, it's the NFL today, baby. Gotta love it. All right. So as far as our schedule this week, once again, we are going to be back with Mark on Wednesday. Hopefully, that's what we're hearing. And that means we're going to preview. Now, this is important. Yes, we're going to talk about week 16 in the NFL, but a majority of our talk is going to be about the college football playoffs. We didn't really talk about it much because there was only 3 of us. So we're getting Tony back, Victor back, Mark back.
There was only 3 of us, but we did 2 hours and 30 minutes with only 3 people instead of the normal 6.
Yeah, that was a little out. That was too much. So we are going to be back though to talk college football playoffs. So we're going to get all of our predictions. We'll throw in the futures and find out, who likes this, who likes that. So we're going to get differentiating opinions. I am positive about who everybody likes, who's everybody's sleeper, who's everybody's championship pick and all that stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll talk, of course, week 16 in the NFL. Mark, Jim, and I will be back on Friday. And then we'll have an opportunity to talk more about what's going on, especially in the NFL and college football, but mostly NFL. And then Jim and I will be back on Saturday, as I mentioned before, once we have the final injury report for week 16, and we're going to take a look around the league and all the games and give our final analysis and some picks. So should be a fun week, Jim. It's going to be a fun, actually, it's going to be a fun 6 weeks because this is it. This is when we start, Jim. We got the playoffs starting on Friday in college football for the first time ever. A 12-team playoff starts on Friday, and then that's it. Now, it doesn't stop until the Super Bowl. This week is the beginning of just some really awesome football until Super Bowl Sunday.
And we got an exciting time. And of course, we are eventually going to start talking about basketball, college, pro.
That'll be January. Yep.
I had a bad Sunday. I was 4-5, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday was good, really good. But it's tough, man. When you got these teams making these stupid decisions and stupid plays and celebrating on the 1 foot line when you're going for, some crazy shit. Come on, man.
Just imagine if you had that Jonathan Taylor on your fantasy football team. I know you're not a fantasy football guy, Jim, but just imagine, because this is a big week for fantasy football fans.
I don't know if Taylor's safe to go back to Indianapolis. He cost them the playoffs.
He cost them a shot at it. Yep, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was.
He's got some splaining to do.
And they pay this guy to do this kind of stuff.
So now you've got a cult team that had a player that did that, and the other guy quit on you for a few plays about a month ago. Your quarterback, your franchise quarterback.
Yes.
Imagine if the Colts were in New York, like a market like that. Just imagine how they'd be.
Let's go back a whole bunch of years and say that these guys both played for Lombardi. Can you imagine?
Well, they wouldn't be playing for Lombardi anymore.
Can you imagine?
They wouldn't.
What? Well,
did you see Did you see the 30 for 30 on Gastineau and the Jets, the sack exchange?
I did not see that.
Okay, so you like historical football, so you get a kick out of it. So, so one of the parts there was, who was it? Okay, so they were struggling. They started 0-3 the season they went to the playoffs, and Walt Michaels gets the sack exchange in the room. Klecko, Gastineau, Salam, and Lyons sits him down because there was a lot of bickering, a lot of egos, and they didn't like each other, Gastineau and Klecko, and they didn't get along. So they're 0-3. The defense isn't playing well. He gets him in the room, and he basically, I don't know exactly what he said, but you can check it out. And he basically goes, and if you don't like it, then I'm going to get rid of you. I'm going to get rid of you. I'm going to get rid of you. And I'm going to get rid of you. Now get the fuck out of here. That's what he basically said like that almost, is paraphrasing, but coaches can't do that anymore. Coaches wouldn't say that anymore nowadays. But those were the old days of hard ass head coaches that if you didn't play the right way, they were going to get in your grill and they were going to tell you to your face. And that's how we grew up watching football. So,
well, we were, I guess it crosses over to society too. I mean, we were a much tougher country and a much tougher football league. And we had, all the rules are different. I mean, we're just different.
Yep.
And not in a better way.
No, for the most part, but there was a lot of things though that
there has to be more. You have to be more accountable for what your actions are.
Yeah.
Than what we seem to want. I'm not getting into it because I'm not telling everybody how to think.
But sports wise,
I just think we're a little too soft.
Yeah, sports wise, it's a different animal.
Imagine this. Imagine you make a bet. Let's say you make a $5,000 bet. You lose. So you owe normal juice. You owe $5,500 to the man. So you call him up and say, look, I know I lost my $5,500, but I'm not going to pay. I'll pay you $2,000.
Yeah.
In the old days, you'd have people at your door.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to be accountable for what you do. I mean, come on. You're paid a lot of money to celebrate at the 1-inch line and cost your team the playoffs. Come on. You're tired, so you tap yourself out of the game. Come on. You're lucky to be there, for God's sake. There aren't that many jobs in the NFL, and you're going to tap yourself out of the game because you're tired. There's nobody else on the team. Nobody else in the league is tired. Except
I know. And if you are tired and exhausted, well, just don't admit it. No. I got something wrong. My limp to the sideline or something like that.
Okay, say I need a breather. I need a breather. Give me a.
Yeah, I got a headshot or something.
Instead, I'm going to the locker room to take a nap.
It's like, did you see what happened to Myles Garrett when he got poked in the eye?
Did not.
All right, so I thought the worst for him. All of a sudden, the play goes on. It's a regular play. And you see Myles Garrett on the floor, and he's got his hands like this, and he's in excruciating pain. And the first thing you would normally think about is, oh, no, he's damaged his knee. He's in pain. He's out for the next year and a half. That's what you're thinking. But what happened was the offensive lineman, they're doing this, and he poked him in the eye. Now, I don't know what happened because he did play later on. And I'm sure there's stuff out there on it. But boy, was he in pain. So he must have probably got it must have been right in his eye. I'm just guessing because I don't know what else it could have given you that much pain. But I just cannot, wow. Not that the Browns are a playoff team, but just imagine we saw all these injuries this week. It's just, if you're a Browns fan, I can imagine. That's what I thought. I could imagine tons of Browns fans are thinking the same thing. What happened? He must have broken his leg, and thankfully it wasn't that. But yeah, that was something where that was scary. And it could have just been something too that could have really. An eye.
Eye pain is very, very. That has to really hurt.
Yep, that could have been even worse. So. All right, so we're out of here. Like I said, wall-to-wall videos, another week here on Proline TV as we get closer to the end of the year. And like you said, Jim, we'll be talking college football, basketball once we do turn the page to 2025, and so much more, including golf begins the first week of January as well. So look out for that here on the network. And we'll see you again in a couple of days, Jim. Nice talking to you as always.
Have a good one. Take care, bro.